The massive doors of the Galactic Assembly Station slid open with their usual heavy grinding sound. Representatives from 47 different species turned their attention toward the human entrance. Some had scales, others had feathers, and a few existed as clouds of organized gas held together by energy fields. They all waited to hear what the humans had to say. June walked to the center platform. He wore the simple gray uniform that human diplomats had worn for 300 years. His face showed no emotion. Behind him stood 12 other humans, each representing a different sector of human-occupied space. The aliens noticed something strange. Usually, human delegations smiled, made small talk, and tried to make everyone comfortable. Today, they looked like statues. "I will be brief," June said. His voice carried through the translation systems to every species present. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic affairs. We are closing our borders. We are recalling every human from every non-human world, station, and ship. This decision is final. This decision is not negotiable. The chamber erupted into chaos. The Krell ambassador, a massive creature with 6 arms and armored plates, roared his objection. The mesh representative, speaking through 1,000 small voices at once, demanded explanation. The crystalline choir sang their confusion in harmonic waves that made the walls vibrate. June waited for silence. When it did not come, he simply turned and walked toward the exit. The other humans followed. No explanation. No apology. No farewell. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the transport ship homeward bound. Through the windows, she could see dozens of other human vessels forming up in organized patterns. Each ship carried thousands of humans leaving alien space. Some were diplomats like June. Others were teachers, engineers, doctors, artists, and families who had made their homes among the stars. "Captain, we're receiving messages from the surface," her communications officer reported. "The choir is begging us to stay. They say their children are in our schools. They say we promised to help them build their new city." Then his jaw tightened. "Send the standard response. All commitments are void. All agreements are terminated. They have 30 days to remove their citizens from human space." Deho, her executive officer, stood beside her. They had served together for 15 years. He had never questioned her orders before, but now he looked troubled. "Captain, some of these people are our friends. We've lived beside them for decades. Why are we doing this?" Yuna pulled up a classified file on her personal display. She showed it to Deho. His face went pale as he read. "Earth Command found something in the old ruins," Yuna said quietly. "Archaeological sites from civilizations that existed before any of us reached space. 4 different civilizations. All of them died the same way. They formed alliances. They had a species that held everyone together through diplomacy and trade. Then that species either died out or left. And within a century, the rest destroyed each other completely. And we're the species holding everyone together," Deho whispered. "Were," Yuna corrected. "Command believes that as long as we're here, the other species will never learn to work together on their own. They'll always depend on us to solve their problems. We're not helping them anymore. We're crippling them. So we just leave? Let them figure it out or die trying." Yuna looked out at the stars. "We hope they figure it out, but we won't watch them use us as a crutch anymore. If they can't stand on their own, then maybe they don't deserve to stand at all." The evacuation took 2 weeks. It was the largest organized movement of humans in history. Every single human came home. From the furthest research stations to the deepest trade posts, they all returned to human space. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. On the assembly station, workers found something the day after the last human left. Carved into the central plaza floor, where millions of beings walked every day, were words in the common trade language. You wanted to stand alone. Now prove you can. Within hours, the meaning became clear. The Krell Empire, no longer restrained by human diplomatic pressure, immediately sent warships to 3 disputed systems. They claimed the territories had always belonged to them. The Mesh, sensing weakness, responded by fortifying their own borders and expelling all Krell citizens from their worlds. Sujin, a wealthy merchant who belonged to a species called the Traders, threw a massive celebration. She had adopted a human name years ago because human names were considered fashionable. Now she celebrated what she called Liberation Day. Thousands attended her festival across multiple worlds. No more human rules, she announced to cheering crowds. No more human taxes on trade routes. No more human interference in our business. We are finally free. The traders were not alone in their celebration. Dozens of species felt relief. The humans had always been kind, but they had also been controlling. They set rules about weapons, about territorial expansion, about resource extraction. Now those rules were gone, but some species worried. The Coalition of Free Worlds, a group of smaller civilizations, called an emergency meeting. They had survived for centuries, specifically because human peacekeepers protected them from larger, more aggressive neighbors. Now those peacekeepers were gone. What do we do? Asked their leader, a being named Young-hee, another alien who had taken a human name. The Krell will not respect our borders. The Mesh will not honor our treaties. Who will protect us now? No one had an answer. In the abandoned human embassy on the assembly station, cleaning crews found something unusual. Entire rooms full of equipment still running, still active. Storage facilities full of weapons and defense systems. All of it locked behind security doors that no one could open. And all of it watching, monitoring, waiting for something. The galaxy had wanted humanity to leave. Now humanity was gone. And slowly, carefully, the stars began to remember what war felt like. 8 months passed since humanity withdrew. The galaxy learned to function without them, or at least it tried. Trade routes shifted. Diplomatic channels changed. Species that had relied on human translators now struggled to communicate directly. But they managed. They adapted. They told themselves they were better off. Then the shooting started. The Krell Empire and the Mesh Collective had hated each other for thousands of years before humans ever reached space. Ancient wars, old grudges, and territorial disputes that ran deeper than memory. For 3 centuries, humanity had kept them apart through careful diplomacy, trade agreements, and the occasional show of military force. Now that pressure was gone. It began with a small incident. A Krell mining ship crossed into what the Mesh considered their territory. The Mesh sent a warning. The Krell ignored it. The Mesh sent warships. The Krell sent more warships. Within a week, what started as a single mining dispute became a full fleet engagement. Juan's face appeared on every major broadcast channel across both empires. The image was a hologram, transmitted from somewhere inside human space. He had been one of humanity's greatest military strategists, a legend who had prevented a dozen wars through nothing but reputation and careful planning. Most species thought he had retired to Earth years ago. "Stop now," Juan said simply. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You're making a mistake. Stop now, or you'll learn exactly why we kept you apart for 300 years. The Krell High Commander laughed at the transmission. "The humans are gone. They have no authority here anymore. This is our business, not theirs." The Mesh Overmind responded with similar dismissal. "We do not fear human threats." They abandoned the galaxy. They abandoned their responsibility. Their words mean nothing now. Both empires continued their war. Eun watched from her hidden observation station on the edge of Mesh territory. She was not supposed to be here. Every human had been ordered home, but she had stayed behind, hiding herself on a remote research facility that the evacuation fleet had missed. She was a xenanthropologist, someone who studied alien cultures, and she could not resist the chance to observe what would happen when humans left. What she saw horrified her. The Krell and Mesh both fielded massive fleets, hundreds of ships engaging in battles that lit up entire star systems. But it was not just them. The Crystalline Choir, ancient allies of the Mesh, sent their own forces to help. The Void Swimmers, who had trade agreements with the Krell, deployed their unique phasing technology in support. Within 3 months, half the galaxy had chosen sides. Species that had worked together peacefully for generations were now killing each other. Space stations burned. Colonies were evacuated. Refugee ships fled in every direction. EUN-G recorded everything. She sent encrypted reports back to Earth, documenting each escalation, each atrocity, each step toward complete civilizational collapse. Her reports were read in the highest levels of human government. The response was always the same. Observe, but do not interfere. They're dying, Yoonji transmitted in her latest report. Species that survive for millions of years are being wiped out because they can't stop fighting. We could stop this. One human fleet, one diplomatic mission, and we could end this war in a week. Why won't we help them? The response came from someone high in Earth Command. Because helping them now would prove they were right to depend on us. They need to learn to save themselves. Or they need to learn that they can't. A new faction emerged from the chaos. The Coalition of Free Worlds, led by Ambassador Young-hee, represented smaller species caught between the warring powers. They wanted peace but lacked the military strength to enforce it. They lacked the diplomatic experience to negotiate it. For centuries, humans had done that work for them. Young-hee sent a delegation to human space. 12 ships carrying representatives from 30 different species approached Earth's borders. They carried messages of friendship, requests for help, and desperate pleas for humanity to return. The human border station stopped them politely but firmly. Please, Young-hee's message played across communication channels. We need you. We're not warriors like the Krell. We're not unified like the Mesh. We don't know how to stop this. Our people are dying. Please help us. The human response was brief and cold. You chose independence. You celebrated when we left. Now earn the right to that independence. Prove you can stand without us or prove you can't. Either way, you'll learn the truth. The delegation returned home with nothing, but something strange happened across the war zones. Ancient human facilities, abandoned for months, suddenly activated. Automated defense systems came online. Weapons platforms that everyone assumed were deactivated started moving. A Krell battle fleet, pursuing Mesh forces through a neutral system, found themselves under fire from orbital defense stations. The stations were human-built, human-designed, and set to automatic protocols. They fired on both Krell and Mesh ships with equal precision. Within minutes, both fleets retreated, leaving their dead behind. Similar events occurred across a dozen systems. Human automated defenses created neutral zones whether anyone wanted them or not. They did not take sides. They simply prevented certain actions. Planetary bombardment? The defense systems activated. Weapons of mass destruction? The systems activated. Complete annihilation of civilian populations? The systems activated. The galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity had built safety systems into everything they had ever constructed. Every station, every trade hub, every piece of infrastructure that humans had helped create had hidden protocols. And those protocols were now enforcing rules that no one had voted for. This is tyranny. The Krell High Commander raged. The humans are controlling us, even in their absence. The Mesh Overmind analyzed the situation more carefully. The humans planned this. They knew we would fight. They prepared for our violence before they left. They are teaching us a lesson. Both empires tried to destroy the automated systems. They failed. Human engineering was too good, too redundant, too carefully protected. Every destroyed defense station was replaced by backups. Every disabled protocol reactivated from hidden servers. The war continued, but it had limits now. Limits no one had agreed to. Limits enforced by ghosts in the machine.eu. Unji watched it all and understood. This was humanity's final gift to the galaxy. Not peace, because forced peace was worthless. But boundaries. Rules that prevented complete destruction. A safety net that kept civilizations from falling into total darkness. It was not kindness. It was not mercy. It was simply humanity refusing to watch the galaxy burn, even if the galaxy had asked them to leave. 2 years of war had transformed the galaxy into something unrecognizable. Beautiful worlds that had known peace for millennia were now battlefields. Space stations that had served as centers of culture and learning floated as broken debris. Entire species teetered on the edge of extinction. The Mesh Collective, desperate and losing ground against the Krull offensive, made a decision that horrified everyone. They deployed the Plague, a bioweapon so terrible it had been banned for over 10,000 years. The weapon did not simply kill. It rewrote genetic codes, turned living beings into suffering creatures that spread the infection further before dying in agony. 3. Krull colony worlds were infected before anyone could respond. Billions died in screaming chaos. The Krull watched their people dissolve into biological nightmares, and something inside their military command broke. They responded with planet killers. The weapons were old Krull technology, kept in secret storage for generations, supposedly dismantled under human supervision decades ago. Apparently, they had kept a few hidden. Massive missiles that could crack a planet's crust and turn its atmosphere into poison. The Krull launched 12 of them at Mesh colony worlds. 4 made it through the defenses. 4 worlds died completely. Every living thing on those planets was erased in nuclear fire. Trillions gone in moments. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for what would come next. Surely, this was the end. Surely someone would surrender now. But the Mesh and Krull had gone too far. There was no coming back from bioweapons and planetary destruction. There was only revenge now. Admiral Tahi emerged from human space in a single ship. The last advocate was small compared to the warships filling the galaxy. It had no massive weapons, no army of soldiers. It was a diplomatic vessel, the kind humans used to send when they still believed in talking to people. He broadcast on every frequency, every channel, every communication system in known space. Her message reached both empires, all there. Allies, every neutral observer, and every terrified civilian trying to survive the madness. "I am Admiral Tahi of Earth," she began. "I am speaking to you from humanity's last diplomatic ship. I am here to show you something you need to see." The broadcast shifted to show historical records. Not recent history, but ancient history. Ruins on dead worlds. Fragments of civilizations that existed millions of years before any current species had evolved. Human archaeologists had found them throughout the galaxy over the past 300 years. "We found 4 of them," Tahi continued. 4 different galactic civilizations. Each one reached the stars. Each one formed alliances across multiple species. Each one had a mediator species, a culture dedicated to keeping peace and facilitating cooperation. The images showed cities built by beings no one remembered. Technology that made current galactic science look primitive. Art, writing, mathematics, and philosophy from minds that had turned to dust ages ago. Each civilization followed the same pattern, Tahi said. Initial contact, cooperation, golden ages of peace and prosperity. Then something happened to the mediator species. Sometimes they died out from disease. Sometimes they were destroyed by others. Sometimes they simply left, exhausted from carrying everyone else's burdens. The images shifted to show what came after. Weapons scarring entire planets. Space battles so large they had left permanent radiation clouds. Biological horrors preserved in ancient stasis chambers. The end result was always the same: total annihilation. Within a century of losing their mediators, every single one of these civilizations destroyed itself completely, Tahi said. When we discovered this pattern, we understood what we were. We understood our role. We were your mediators. And we knew that role was temporary. The Krell High Commander interrupted the broadcast. You left us. You abandoned your responsibility. We had hoped, Tahi replied, that by leaving peacefully, we would force you to grow beyond the need for external peacekeepers. We hoped you would learn to mediate your own conflicts. We hoped you would prove the pattern wrong. Instead, you are repeating it exactly. You are doing what the 4 dead civilizations did. You are destroying yourselves. The Mesh Overmind responded with 1,000 voices speaking in unison. Then return and stop us. You have the power. You have always had the power. We do, Tahi agreed. Which brings me to why I'm really here. The broadcast shifted to show Earth. The beautiful blue world hung in space, surrounded by massive orbital platforms and defense networks. Around it, spread across the entire solar system, were hundreds of human ships, facilities, and installations. This is the final protocol, Tahi explained. Every piece of technology we ever shared with you has a fail-safe built into it. Every station we helped build, every power system we designed, every medical facility, communication hub, and transportation network that has human engineering in it. And that is almost everything in the galaxy. She let that sink in for a moment. If this war does not end immediately, we will activate the final protocol. Every system will shut down simultaneously. Your ships will lose power. Your stations will go dark. Your colonies will lose life support. We will send you back centuries in a single moment. And we will not help you rebuild. The galaxy went silent. Surely she was bluffing. Surely humans would not do something so cruel. Engineer Sung Min sat at a control station deep inside Earth's orbital command center. He received his orders and entered the activation codes. One sector of space, containing 12 systems, went completely dark. Every piece of technology that had human components stopped working. Ships drifted powerlessly. Stations switched to emergency backup systems that would last only days. Billions of lives suddenly depended on local resources that would run out quickly. That was a demonstration, Tahi said. You have 72 hours to agree to an immediate ceasefire and attend a summit. After that, I activate the protocol galaxy-wide. Your choice is simple: talk or die in the dark. The Krell High Commander wanted to refuse. The Mesh Overmind wanted to call the bluff, but neither could risk it. Too much of their infrastructure depended on human technology. Too many of their systems had human engineering at their core. If Tahi was telling the truth, refusing would mean immediate civilizational collapse. You're blackmailing us, the Krell Commander growled. Yes, Tahi agreed. We're teaching you that actions have consequences, that depending on others creates vulnerabilities. That independence requires actual capability, not just desire. You wanted us gone. Now, you understand what our presence actually meant. And if we refuse? The Mesh Overmind asked. Tahi's expression was cold. Then, we let you destroy yourselves, and we never think about you again. We'll find a new galaxy to live in. One without species, too stubborn to learn from their own history. The broadcast ended. The galaxy had 72 hours to decide between peace or darkness. For the first time in 2 years, the fighting stopped. Not because anyone wanted peace, but because everyone was afraid of what humans would do if they refused. The summit station hung in neutral space, exactly between Krell and Mesh territories. It was human-built, maintained by human artificial intelligence, and protected by human defense systems. Every species attending knew they were meeting on humanity's terms, in humanity's house, under humanity's rules. They had no choice but to accept it. Representatives from every surviving major faction arrived over 3 days. The Krell sent their High Commander, a massive being who had personally ordered the planet killer strikes. The Mesh sent a subdivision of their overmind, a collection of linked consciousnesses housed in a mobile platform. The Crystalline Choir came, their members still singing songs of mourning for the billions lost. The Void Swimmers arrived, their ships phasing in and out of normal space. Even the smaller coalition species came, hoping for protection. Counselor Ji Woo met them at the station's entrance. She was old for a human, over 90 years, but she stood straight and spoke clearly. She had been Earth's chief negotiator for 40 years before the withdrawal. Many of the aliens remembered her from earlier, happier times. "Welcome," Ji Woo said simply. "You're here because you have a choice to make. We're offering to return as mediators, but not under the old system. That system failed. We enabled your dependency instead of fostering your growth. We won't make that mistake again." She led them to a massive conference chamber. The room was circular, with seats arranged so that every species could see every other species. No one sat higher than anyone else. No one had a better position. At the center stood a projection system showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Captain Iron stood near the back wall, silent and still. She commanded one of Earth's most powerful warships, though it remained docked outside the station. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her presence was a reminder that humanity could enforce whatever decision they made. Ji Woo began the presentation. "Here are our terms. We will return as mediators, but you will form a genuine federation. Not a loose alliance where everyone does what they want. A real government with real authority. Each species will cede some sovereignty to a central council. That council will have the power to enforce laws, prevent wars, and manage resources fairly." The Krell commander slammed one of his 6 arms on the table. "Unacceptable. We will not surrender our independence to anyone." "Then you will die," Ji Woo said flatly. "Let me show you why." The projection system activated. It showed current galactic statistics. Population numbers, resource depletion rates, technological regression, casualty projections. Scientist Kyung-soo narrated the data. "At current trajectory, you have 50 years before complete collapse," Kyung-soo explained. "The Krell and Mesh will destroy each other within 20 years. The Crystalline Choir is losing population faster than they can reproduce. The Void Swimmers are running out of habitable systems. The coalition species will be conquered or exterminated by larger neighbors. This is not speculation. This is mathematical certainty." The data was undeniable. Every species in the room could see their own death written in numbers and projections. "But it doesn't have to be this way," Kyung-soo continued. "With cooperation, with fair resource distribution, with enforceable peace agreements, you can all survive. You can rebuild. You can return to prosperity. But only if you're willing to give up the independence you've used to hurt each other." The Mesh Overmind spoke, its 1,000 voices eerily synchronized. "Why should we trust humans to lead this federation? You abandoned us once. You let us fight and die. You watched us deploy bioweapons and planet killers and did nothing until it served your purposes." "You're right," Ji Woo admitted. "We let you fail. We let you suffer the consequences of your choices. That was deliberate. If we had rushed in to save you the moment things got difficult, you would have learned nothing. You would have continued depending on us, continued making the same mistakes, continued assuming we would always be there to fix your problems. So you let billions die to teach us a lesson? The Krell commander growled. Yes, Zhu said, because those billions would have died anyway, eventually, if you had not learned. The pattern is clear. Read the history we showed you. Every civilization that stayed dependent on its mediators died when those mediators left. We're trying to break that pattern. We're trying to give you a chance to survive without us. A new voice spoke up. Dong Jun stepped forward from the coalition delegation. He was not human, though he had been raised among humans. His species, the Wanderers, were peaceful traders who had lived on human colony worlds for generations. He looked young, barely an adult by his species standards. I grew up on a human world, Dong Jun said. I went to human schools. I learned human history and human philosophy. And the most important thing they taught me was this: freedom is not the absence of rules. Freedom is having the wisdom to make good rules and the strength to follow them. He looked around the room at all the representatives. Humans didn't rule us on their worlds. They taught us to rule ourselves. They showed us how to solve our own problems, how to compromise with our neighbors, how to build something bigger than ourselves. We failed that test when they left. We failed it badly, but they're giving us a second chance. And if we're too proud or too stupid to take it, then we deserve what happens to us. The room went silent. An alien youth, raised by humans, understanding humanity better than most humans did themselves. His words carried weight because he was not human. He had no agenda except survival. The vote took 3 days. Each species needed to consult with their home governments. Each faction argued internally. The Krell almost walked out twice. The mesh nearly refused completely. But the data did not lie. Survival required cooperation. Cooperation required enforceable rules. Enforceable rules required giving up some independence. The final vote was close. 32 species voted yes. 15 voted no. It was enough that Ji Wu accepted the result with a simple nod. Very well. Humanity will return. But understand this, we will not be your saviors anymore. We will be your teachers, your partners, your equals. When conflicts arise, we will help you solve them, but we will not solve them for you. When resources are scarce, we will help you distribute them fairly, but we will not give you ours. When wars threaten, we will help you prevent them, but we will not fight them for you. Captain Hyorin finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but carried across the chamber. And if you break these agreements, if you prove you have not learned, we will leave again. And next time, we will not come back. Next time, we will take our technology, our knowledge, and our people to another galaxy entirely. We will leave you to whatever fate you choose. It was not a threat. It was a promise. The species that voted no were given a choice: join the Federation or leave it entirely. Most joined, unwilling to face the galaxy alone. 3 species refused and isolated themselves completely. Humanity accepted their choice without argument. The new Galactic Federation was born not from trust or friendship, but from necessity and fear. It was not perfect. It was not what anyone wanted, but it was better than extinction. And sometimes, better than extinction is enough. 5 years had passed since humanity returned to galactic affairs. The transformation was visible everywhere, though not in the ways most species had expected. The new Galactic Federation headquarters was not a human structure. It had been designed collaboratively by architects from 12 different species, each contributing their unique perspective on what a shared government should look like. High Chancellor Moran walked through the station's central corridors, observing the morning shift change. Human diplomats worked alongside Krell strategists. Mesh analysts shared office space with crystalline scholars. Void swimmers and coalition representatives ate lunch together in the common areas. It was not perfect harmony, but it was functional cooperation, which was infinitely better than war. Chancellor, we have another situation developing in Sector 7, her assistant reported. The assistant was a wanderer, like Dongjun, part of a new generation that had grown up during the transition. Details? Moran asked. Border dispute between the Krell and a coalition mining operation. Both sides are citing different treaties, and both have legal grounds for their claims. Tempers are rising. We need to send mediators before it escalates. Moran pulled up the case files on her tablet. Send Hae-young? She's been training for exactly this kind of situation. Give her a mixed team, Krell and coalition representatives working together. And remind her that her job is not to solve the problem for them, but to help them solve it themselves. This was the new way. Humans did not swoop in with solutions anymore. They facilitated, they guided, they taught. But the actual work of peace had to come from the species involved. It was slower, messier, and more frustrating than the old system. But it was teaching the galaxy something humans had learned long ago. Peace is a skill, and skills require practice. Commander Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the peacekeeping vessel Unity's Promise. The crew around him represented 8 different species, all wearing the same uniform, all following the same protocols. The ship itself had been jointly designed and built, incorporating technology and ideas from multiple civilizations. Commander, we're approaching the disputed mining site, his navigator reported. She was mesh, her consciousness linked to the ship's systems in ways no human could match. Tactical, what are we looking at? Wu Jin asked. The tactical officer, a young Krell named Rian, who had graduated from the first Mixed Species Academy class, brought up sensor displays. 3 Krell military ships on one side, 4 coalition defense platforms on the other. No shots fired yet, but weapons are armed and everyone is watching each other very carefully. Communications. Open a channel to all vessels. The communications officer, human like Wu Jin, established the link. Channel open, sir. This is Commander Wu Jin of the Galactic Federation Peacekeeping Force. I have mediators aboard trained in treaty law and resource arbitration. I also have enough firepower to disable every ship and platform in this system if anyone starts shooting. I would much prefer to use the mediators. Who wants to talk first? It took 3 days, but they worked it out. The Krell had legitimate salvage rights to some of the asteroids. The Coalition had legitimate mining claims to others. The mediators helped them draw clear boundaries and establish a fair schedule for shared resources. Nobody got everything they wanted. Everyone got something they could live with. That was the new normal. Small victories instead of grand solutions. Compromise instead of dominance. Learning to coexist instead of learning to conquer. Back at Federation headquarters, Archivist Byung-ho worked in a massive library filled with historical records. His project had taken 3 years to complete, but it was finally ready. He called it the Withdrawal Archives, a comprehensive historical account of humanity's departure, the wars that followed, and the painful reconstruction. Why preserve this? A young crystalline student asked him. She was studying history at the Federation's new university, one of thousands of students from dozens of species, all learning together. Because forgetting is easy, Byung-ho explained. In another generation, people will be born who never experienced the wars. They will take peace for granted. They will wonder why we have all these rules, all these compromises, all these limitations on sovereignty. And without this record, they might decide to get rid of those things. They might repeat all the same mistakes. He showed her sections of the archive. Images of dead worlds. Casualty lists from the bioweapon attacks. Footage of the planet killer strikes. Recordings of desperate pleas from dying civilizations. And beside each horror, documentation of what happened when species learned to work together instead. Recovered colonies, rebuilt cities, former enemies becoming partners. History is not just about remembering the past, Byung-ho said. It's about understanding why the present is shaped the way it is. And it's about giving the future a choice to be better. The student looked at the records with new understanding. This is required learning now, isn't it? Every species has to study this before joining the Federation. Yes, Byung-ho confirmed. Because joining is easy. Staying is hard. And staying requires understanding what we're all staying for. Not everything was success stories. Small conflicts continued to erupt regularly. Mediator Hae-young found herself handling another crisis just weeks after her last one. This time it was a cultural dispute between the Void Swimmers and the Crystalline Choir. Old resentments, religious differences, and competing territorial claims all tangled together into a knot that threatened to unravel into violence. Hae-young worked 16-hour days for a week, facilitating discussions, preventing escalations, and slowly building bridges between two species that barely understood each other. In the end, she found a solution that satisfied most parties. Not everyone was happy. Some Void Swimmers felt they had given up too much. Some Crystalline felt they had not received enough. But nobody died. Nobody deployed weapons. Nobody declared war. Ho-yoon reported back to High Chancellor Miran exhausted but satisfied. It's done. It's fragile, but it's holding. Will it last? Miran asked. Ask me in another year, Ho-yoon replied honestly. This is the reality now. We don't get permanent solutions anymore. We get temporary agreements that require constant maintenance. It's exhausting. Miran smiled slightly. Welcome to actual peacekeeping. It's not dramatic. It's not heroic. It's just relentless, careful work that never ends. But it's the only thing that actually works in the long term. 50 years after humanity returned, the galaxy held its annual Remembrance Day. Not a celebration, but a solemn memorial. Every species participated, gathering in their own ways to remember the wars, the losses, and the lessons learned at terrible cost. On the Federation Station, a new monument had been erected in the central plaza. It showed a human and an alien standing side by side, neither bowing to the other, neither standing above the other. The inscription read, "We learned to stand alone. Now we choose to stand together." Admiral Yuna attended the ceremony. She was very old now, over 100 years, kept alive by advanced medical technology, but still feeling every year of her age. Her executive officer Daeho stood beside her in a wheelchair. His body aged beyond medical help, but his mind still sharp. Was it worth it? Daeho asked quietly, watching the ceremony below. All those deaths, all that suffering, all of it just to teach a lesson. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Ask me in another century, she finally said. If they're still standing together then, if they're still choosing cooperation over conquest, if the next generation maintains what this one built, then yes, it was worth it. And if they forget? Daeho pressed. If they fall apart again? Then we leave again, Yuna said simply. And we don't come back. We gave them knowledge. We gave them tools. We gave them a chance to be better than they were. But we can't force them to use any of it. Choice has to mean something, even if they choose wrong. Below them, the ceremony continued. Young beings from species that have been mortal enemies now stood together, promising to remember, promising to do better, promising to preserve what their ancestors had built at such terrible cost. Promises were easy to make. Keeping them would be the real test. But for now, for this moment, the galaxy stood together. Not because they had to, not because humans forced them to, but because they had learned, slowly and painfully, that standing together was the only way any of them would survive. And that lesson, bought with blood and fire and countless tears, was worth preserving for as long as they could make it last.